all welcome to this ongoing webinar series that has been on for quite some time. This is the AFRH, Association for the Fertility and Reproductive Health. We've been having series of webinar presentations for educational purposes, which eventually we are looking at developing a compendium or a textbook of very solid information that can be used for educational purposes for the future. Today, we are going on an embryology session. Just to introduce myself to you, I'm Dr. John Ekwani. I'm a consultant gynecologist. And together with me is Mrs. Inikbi, who is going to be co-moderating with me. I will be handing over to her now to make some comments, and then before I will take over again. So Mrs. Inikbi, you are welcome to stage.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of AFRH, I would like to welcome everyone to our exciting AFRH bi-monthly webinar series, which is, of course, dedicated to exploring the fascinating and critical field of reproduction. My name, as earlier mentioned, is Inikbi Samuel, and I'm a research embryologist. If you are used to our webinar, we are very much aware that this series brings together experts, researchers, clinicians to discuss the latest advancement and challenges. Of course, then talk about innovation and how to update, upgrade our operations when it comes to assisted reproductive science. The healthcare, of course, is on the, the growth is on the increase in Nigeria right now. So quickly to the announcement, I'm going to be talking about our second Congress, that's the forthcoming conference, is slated to take place on the 24th to 26th of September 2026, talking about the second Congress of the Africa Federation of Fertility Society, AFFS, and the 16th Association for Reproductive Health, AFRH Annual International Conference, which is tagged AFFS 2026. The theme for this year's conference is Fertility Frontiers, talking about global innovation and advances in human reproduction. The venue is Abuja Continental Hotel, FCT Abuja, Nigeria. So to register, you visit the website www.affsconference2026.org. Then, of course, for the registration fees, it differs. We have different ranges for the registration for foreign delegates, and then, of course, for members of AFRH and then non-members. Kindly go through the flyers. The right information are there for you to follow. So I trust that you have an unforgettable conference experience. All you need to do is register. Just to let us know, this session is being recorded. And of course, after this very conference, this seminar, we expect you to follow AFRH on our website, on our app. I will show or shed more light after the presentation today. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir, Dr. John.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Inikbi, for that wonderful introduction. I will now go over to the meet for today. I'll be introducing a very important speaker who is well known to many of us, a member of this association and has been an active member. He's Mr. Adefemi Olaifa, an AFRH certified senior embryologist with over 20 years of experience in assisted reproductive technology. He holds a master's degree in clinical embryology from the University of Leeds, United Kingdom. His professional expertise and interests include intracytoplasmic sperm injection, fertility preservation, embryology training, and translational research aimed at improving clinical outcomes in ART. Without much delay, I will allow the great speaker to take the stage to take this presentation. Mr. Olaifa, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ekwani. I want to welcome every one of us once again to this AFRH Training Committee webinar series. I want to appreciate AFRH Training Committee for this great opportunity to have this discussion on this very important topic, optimizing embryo culture current updates. Okay, so you will all agree with me that embryo culture is a very germane part of assisted reproductive technology, and embryo culture play a very key role, because its main goal is to create an environment that maximizes the health and growth potentials of embryos while minimizing iatrogenic stress. So when we look at human embryo culture in vitro, it involves taking a holistic approach, which includes the media, the gas phase, medium overlay, culture vessels, incubator, ambient air quality, and the trained embryologists as well. So the concept of embryo culture systems showcases the complex interaction that exists between the embryo and its physical environment, along with all ambient parameters present in the laboratory. So why does embryo culture, why does it matter? So the main goal of embryo culture is to replicate the conditions of the maternal reproductive tract, that is the oviduct and also the uterus. And the aim of embryo culture also is to ensure that embryos' viability are retained and maintained during the laboratory process. Like we already know, embryos are very highly sensitive to change, so suboptimal culture conditions introduce stress in the embryos. And you all agree with me that the first suspect when there is poor embryo development or outcome is usually laboratory culture conditions. And it's important to note that it is responsibility of the laboratory lab, of the IVF laboratory, to create a stable, non-toxic, pathogen-free surrounding for optimal embryo culture. And the multiple variables involved, which we can control, must be controlled carefully, in addition to strict adherence to cleanliness and sterile techniques throughout the procedure. And also there must also be strict adherence to the SOP, the embryo culture SOP. So what are the determinants of IVF success? The first one from the woman, which is the oocyte quality. Then we also have the sperm quality from the man. We also have the uterine receptivity. The uterine must be primed, and the uterus must be primed and must be ready to receive the embryo. So we also have the laboratory controlled variables. These are the ones that are in our control. We have the temperature, the pH, environmental conditions, gas compositions, culture media, osmolality, air quality, light exposure, and handling time. So we quickly go to a very important factor in that goes a long way to determine the success of embryo culture. That is the ambient air quality. That is the ambient air, that is the environment surrounding the IVF laboratory. So IVF has been linked to clean air. So good quality air will bring improvement in cleavage rates, increase in high embryo quality, and also at the end of the day, increase in clinical pregnancy rates. So the main culprit in ambient air contamination in the laboratory is called volatile organic compounds, VOCs. And these VOCs, they are absorbed by embryos. And when they are absorbed by embryos, they quickly fasten to the embryo's DNA and stop growth. And at the end of the day, it affects the overall pregnancy rate and success rates, implantation rate of the IVF process. So what are the sources of these embryos? The sources of volatile organic compound. What are the sources? The first one is plastics. Most of the consumables used in IVF, they are made of plastics, and they are rich reservoir for VOCs like styrenes, formaldehyde, glutathione, and toluene. And then we also have VOCs generated during construction. And then when there is a cleaning activities going on around the facility, this go a long way to contribute to the chemical air contamination, and this is linked to low pregnancy rates. Also, the gases used in the incubator too can contribute to VOC. That's why it's very important to use high quality medical grade gases for the incubators. So we have a look at VOC and IVF outcomes. So human study revealed that VOC levels above 1 ppm is embryotoxic and detrimental to embryo development. VOC level at approximately 0.5 ppm acceptable for blastocyst and reasonable pregnancy rates, but we will have increased miscarriage rates. Then the acceptable level of VOC that will be present in the laboratory should be less than 0.2 ppm, and preferably it should be 0. There should be no VOCs at all. There should be total clean air, 100% clean air in the laboratory. So there's this study by Cohen et al. They reported that after moving their IVF laboratory to a new lab, to a new location, their pregnancy rate dropped significantly due to high levels of VOCs. Then they also reported that pregnancy rates also reduced when a neighbor in the building replaced their vinyl floors, which requires the use of large amounts of adhesives, and then released at the end of the day a huge amount of VOCs, and thereby contaminating their IVF laboratory. So what do we do to make sure that we have clean air in the laboratory? We have air filtration strategies with the aim to remove all air contaminants. The first one is activated carbon filters. These carbon filters removes hydrocarbons from the air that comes into the lab. So we also have the HEPA filtration, which removes particulate matter, especially those around 0.3 microns. Also, there must be positive pressure clean rooms. We must make sure we do everything to make sure that the laboratory is clean, and the embryologist or the laboratory staff does not introduce VOCs in any way into the laboratory. Also, there should be inline filter for the incoming gas line, for the incubators, all in a bid to remove VOCs and air contaminants. So we try to look at the evidence of what improved air quality can do to embryo culture. So Hetman et al. Reported in this article that live birth rates achieved via IVF are increased by improvements in air quality and laboratory environment. So they carried out a retrospective cohort analysis of all fresh autologous IVF and ICSI cycles at their old facility at Washington, D.C. And, in 2012, they started their new laboratory in Bethsaida in 2012. So at the end of the day, they looked at a total of 820 fresh cycles, then 388 in their old facility in 2011, and 432 in 2012 at their new facility. So their new IVF facility was constructed with consideration of the environmental factor with the state-of-the-art air handling system. So what they reported was an increase in blastocyst formation rate. They reported also increase in implantation and live birth rate. They also had more single embryo transfers, and then they were able to have more embryo, supernumerary embryos for freezing. So this bar chart is showing the comparison between the performance of the old laboratory and the new laboratory. And they had significant increase in implantation rates significant increases in positive pregnancy test result. They also noted increase in clinical pregnancy. There is a significant increase in live birth rate. They also recorded increased singleton pregnancies, and there was a reduced twining rate. So quickly, we talk about what we can do to the culture vessels to reduce VOC and improve embryo culture, or to improve embryo quality. So all materials coming in contact with the embryos, gametes, must be sterile, non-toxic, and preferably disposable. And then they must also carry the CE mark, which is a sign of quality. Then all consumables and media that will be used in the embryo culture must have gone through mouse embryo assay testing. And all the consumables must come with MEA testing certificate, showing that more than 80% of the mouse embryos, when tested with these consumables, were more, the mouse embryos developing to 80%, to blastocyst, were more than 80%. So another thing that we can do to the consumables is to do what we call off-gassing. This is reported by Santos et al. In their article titled "Off-gassing plasticware to decrease the toxicity effects in embryo culture." So what they recommended is that plasticwares should, you remove them from their packaging, and then you place them in the laminar flow hood, a running laminar flow hood, for about 72 hours. And when we do this, we're able to reduce the toxicity that can be caused by VOCs that is present in the plasticware. So it's simple and affordable. It doesn't cost much, but we must do everything in our capacity to make sure that we reduce VOC to the barest minimum. So I will also be talking about culture media evolution. We already know, embryo culture is a very critical step to assisted reproductive technology, and culture medium, plays a major role in the IVF success. So a perfect embryo culture medium should contain components similar to the ones present in the womb environment, and to mimic the environment that is most conducive to embryo development, and also that will be able to increase clinical outcomes. Before the 1980s, fertility centers, they produced their own basic and simple media in-house. But nowadays, there are so many commercially available culture media available now that contains various components like nutrients, vitamins, growth factors that is needed for embryo development. The formulations we have now is metabolism driven. The design we have now is metabolism driven, and this is achieved through understanding metabolic pathways of embryos, their substrates, and also nutrient preferences. So about 20 years ago, we can only culture embryos to 8 cell stage. That is, we can only culture to day 3 before the embryos are transferred to the prime uterus of the patients. And this early embryo replacement to the uterus explain in part why at that time we have low implantation rates, because at that time only about 10% of the embryo transferred led to a live birth. So further research on metabolism of in vitro fertilized embryos revealed that there are specific needs depending on the developmental stage of the pre-implantation embryo. For example, oocytes and blastocysts depend on glucose for their energy source, while the pre-implantation or the early cleavage stage embryos, depended on lactate and pyruvate for their energy substrates. So improvements in culture media, is as a result of the increased understanding of the environment of the oviduct and the uterus. So further intensive studies in animal system led to the understanding of the metabolic biochemistry and molecular mechanism involved in gamete maturation, oocyte activation, fertilization, embryonic genome activation, cleavage, compaction, and blastocyst formation. So this reality to culture zygote to blastocyst stage allowed the synchronization of the embryos with the female reproductive tract and assisted in identifying embryos with low developmental potentials. So cleavage stage embryo shows an evolving need for energy substrate. Like I said before, they move from pyruvate preference, while the embryos are still under the maternal genetic control, to glucose-based metabolism after the activation of the embryonic genome. So the improved understanding of both the physiological changes in the oviduct and uterus and the different metabolic needs of the cleavage stage and blastocyst stage embryos led to the development of the stage-specific or sequential complex media. So right now we have two types of medium for embryo culture. We have the sequential medium and we have the single-step medium. So the sequential medium was formulated based on the back-to-nature approach, which mimics the changing embryo development environment, first in the fallopian tube and then in the uterus, in which different formulations are required. So the single-step medium, has the approach of let the embryo choose approach, and was developed to meet the metabolic needs of both early embryos and blastocyst development during in vitro culture. Therefore, this medium must contain all components required for embryo development to the blastocyst stage. So are there any advantages of the single-step medium over the sequential medium? So few advantages. What I have here is less embryo handling and thus minimizes the chances of unintentional exposure of stress to the embryos. Although regardless of the chosen culture system, embryos have to be frequently removed from the incubator to carry out embryo development assessment, thus exposing them to stress. So single medium also provide adequate stabilization of the embryo culture environment and reduces costs by reduction in the consumable used. So single medium also is a friendlier method when one uses time-lapse incubator. When a single embryo is cultured in a single droplet for 5 to 6 days before embryo transferred. And Cochrane review analysis did not show superiority of any of these culture media. So most of the literature available says that there's no superiority. So you can as well choose the one that is convenient for your use. So quickly we go to media composition essentials. One of the most essential parts or components of culture media is the electrolytes, which include calcium ion, potassium ion, and phosphate ion. And these electrolytes contribute to embryo development and implantation rate. And these are made possible by the addition of salts of sodium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride. So we go to the energy substrate, which is also a very important component of a culture media. Glucose is an energy source for the oocytes and blastocysts, which is present in the human oviductal fluid. Then the L-lactate and pyruvate, which are two primary energy substrates for early embryos, and their use and uptake continues throughout pre-implantation development. So carnitine is also included due to its role in fatty acid metabolism and energy production to maintain metabolic homeostasis and its role as scavengers of reactive oxygen species and also serve as a cryoprotector. So the next important composition is the amino acid. Amino acids are needed in the culture medium for embryo development and viability. So an ideal culture media will contain both essential and non-essential amino acid, and they are present in the mid-cycle human oviduct and uterus and uterine fluid. Okay, so amino acids are regulators of several processes that occur during mammalian development. So specific amino acids are known to support many cellular processes by acting as metabolites, antioxidants, osmolality regulators, internal pH buffers, and chelators for heavy metals. So here I have the roles of the different amino acids. So glutamine and non-essential amino acid, they trigger the growth of the early cleavage stage embryo. Then both essential and non-essential amino acids favor the growth of the inner cell mass. The non-essential amino acids promote stimulation of vitreorectoderm and arching from the zona pellucida. Then we also have methionine shortage, and this is associated with monozygotic twining in humans. So methionine plays a very important role in imprinting and DNA methylation. And the processes that are very important for chromosomal stability. So yes, we have what we call the ammonium buildup. You know, a key concern during in vitro culture is that amino acid supplementation might increase, you know, as a result of the amino acids that are present in the media. They are heat labor and they break down during culture at 37 degrees and they produce ammonium. So unfortunately, this ammonium is toxic to embryos, reduces implantation, and might negatively affect fetal development. So the impact of ammonium is intensified when culture is performed at 20% oxygen tension. This potential concern may be resolved by performing a media change in a sequential system. So the amino acid glutamine is considered the greatest contributor to the ammonium production in vitro as one of the most unstable amino acids. However, a newer strategy is to include a more stable dipeptide form, alanine glutamine or glycyl L-glutamine, to significantly reduce the accumulation of ammonium in modern embryo culture media and avoid building a toxic embryo environment. So quickly, I'll talk about oxygen concentration and reactive oxygen species. The role of oxygen in embryonic metabolism and development is key. So oxygen is consumed during mitochondrial oxidative phosphorylation, while reactive oxygen species may be generated by the leakage of high-energy electrons as they pass down the electronic transport chain. So in vivo, the oxygen tension is between 2 to 8% in vivo. So this is the oxygen level that the embryos are exposed to in vivo. But in vitro, it is 5% of oxygen is recommended for embryo culture. And when we are able to culture embryos at 5% oxygen, we're able to reduce reactive oxygen species, and then the viability of the embryos are also enhanced and increased. So cultured embryos at low oxygen concentration is correlated with faster embryo development and lower perturbation in the global pattern of gene expression. Okay, so reactive oxygen species may impair cell metabolism, genomic integrity, and embryo viability. So culturing embryos in atmospheric oxygen of 20% might result in an increase in ROS production. So further reports have illustrated the overall adverse effect of atmospheric oxygen on the embryo with alteration to transcriptome, proteome, gene expression, and changes in both carbohydrates and amino acid metabolism. Now, the impact of this is that we culture when embryos are cultured in the large box incubator. The atmospheric oxygen is at 20%, and that is the level that the embryo culture takes place in the large box incubator, because we are not able to control the oxygen, the levels of oxygen. And so this goes a long way to increase the reactive oxygen species production during culture, which is highly detrimental to embryo growth and development. So we talk about the physical culture conditions. We have the temperature. So usually the culture temperature should be 37 degrees. But sometimes if there's problem with the temperature during culture, if it's reduced to 33 degrees, then there is the depolarization of the mitotic spindle, that is the chromosome, continues as the temperature drops. So when embryos are cultured for about 10 minutes, when they are exposed to non-physiological pH or temperature, then it will induce the spindle to disassemble, and this damage is irreversible. So what it means is that if there's a problem with temperature and it goes down to less than 33 degrees, then the chromosome will depolarize, and at the end of the day, they will disassemble, and then this damage is irreversible. So the temperature for optimal culture of embryos is 37 degrees, because it's very close to the body temperature in vivo. So we also look at pH stability. Media pH is directly correlated with the bicarbonate concentration. The media used has what we call the bicarbonate buffer in it. And so this bicarbonate buffer is controlled by the CO2 concentration of the incubator, which is usually between 5 to 6%. So if the CO2 concentration inside the incubator increases or decreases, then it's going to affect the pH. And then variations outside of the physiological ranges negatively affect embryo metabolism and development and viability. So the pH for the media should be between 7.2 to 7.4. So we also have another factor, which is osmolality, and it should be between 255 to 295. So early stages of embryo development are very sensitive to changes in osmolality, and cell volume homeostasis is essential for embryo development and further development. So today, osmolality is set by the commercial media manufacturers. However, laboratory conditions such as evaporation during dish preparation, length of preparation, droplet volume, incubator humidity levels, airflows, and temperature can lead to its variation. So we quickly talk about another big factor in embryo culture. So that is talking about embryo culture. Without the incubator, we cannot do anything called embryo culture. So it's very important in our job. So, and what the incubator provides, it provides a delicate balance of temperature, humidity, and gas composition, particularly the levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen, which influence the pH and metabolic stability of the culture medium. So the types of incubator that we use is the classic CO2 incubators, that is the large box incubator. And the capacity ranges from 20 liters to 200 liters. And a very important problem with this big box incubator is that anytime the doors are open, it causes substantial temperature and CO2 fluctuations, exposing all the culture culture to stress, and it also takes a lot of time before it's going to, go back to its to the normal or the set temperature and set CO2. So we have what we also call the flat bed incubator or benchtop tri-gas system. It is smaller, this is a picture of it here. It is smaller and compartmentalized. What it does is that, anytime the incubator is open, it just only affects only that compartment. And then because it's a small compartment, it can easily, go back in a short time to the set temperature. So within seconds of opening, it can regain back the set temperature and also the gas concentration. So each patient's embryo deserves an individualized environment rather than a shared one. So the approach also reduces the chance of sample mix-up and contamination. So we have the time-lapse incubator. This innovation, has helped embryo culture, and also it has also helped embryo assessment a great deal. So the integration of time-lapse imaging into incubator design marked one of the most transformative advances in ART. Traditional practices require the embryologist to remove dishes for microscopic assessment, exposing embryos to environmental fluctuation several times a day. Time-lapse incubator eliminated this need entirely. So time-lapse combine high-resolution cameras with automated microscopes that capture sequential images every few minutes, and the resulting morphokinetic profile reveal key developmental milestones such as cleavage timing or multinucleation. And all this, they are impossible to observe, with static embryo assessment. So this time-lapse incubator, reduces the handling stress of the embryo. So the embryos are cultured in a droplet for 5 to 6 days before the embryo transfer. So, and it's able to generate a lot of data, which have revolutionized embryo selection strategies. So algorithm trained on thousands of developmental trajectories can now identify embryos with the highest implantation potential, improving clinical outcomes while reducing the number of embryos transferred per cycle, and also handling, the stress that bringing out the embryos to check under the microscope can bring to the embryos. So they not only maintain constant physical conditions, but also collect valuable developmental data, transforming embryo culture from an art into a measurable science. So we also have artificial intelligence in embryo culture. So one of the most important uses of AI now in IVF is automated embryo assessment. So AI systems can analyze large data sets of embryo images and time-lapse videos to predict implantation potential. So machine learning algorithms can detect subtle morphological features that may not be visible to the human eye. So this AI automated embryo assessment, removes the subjectivity between embryologists when they are doing embryo assessment. For example, depending on the way the embryos are at a particular time, embryologist A can say that the embryo is 4AA, and then embryologist B can say, oh, the embryo is 4AB. So through this artificial intelligence in embryo culture, the embryo with the highest implantation potentials are chosen for embryo transfer. Okay, so what are the take-home messages from this presentation? We must make sure that our laboratory have high air quality, so which can be done by buying, air filters or air filtration devices that can in and around the laboratory that can help to make sure that the air quality is high and clean. Then we also have off-gassing of plastic consumables for at least 72 hours in a laminar flow hood, and this goes a long way to remove, all the VOCs present in the plastic wares. We also suggest that there should be investment in flatbed incubators, or tri-gas incubators, so that the embryos, we are able to culture the embryos at 5% CO2, because this benchtop incubator does not only use CO2, but also uses nitrogen. We have to get a nitrogen gas that will be able to help to reduce the oxygen to 5% during culture. Then there is also the investment in time-lapse incubators. This reduces the number of times the embryos are brought out, at our own time. For example, now, if normally we want to do fertilization check, it is done at, I think, around 17 to 18 hours. And but if we make use of time-lapse incubators, we don't have to come to the lab at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning or 6 a.m. in the morning, depending on when we did the insemination. We'll just go back to the data, supplied to the PC, and then we just check the number of fertilized embryos. Okay, so we should also make use of quality management systems, which includes daily quality index. That is, we are able to use an independent device to check that the temperature that is being displayed on the incubator is correct. And then there should be equipment maintenance, change of filters and all that. Then there should also be media storage. So the media should be stored at the right temperature, which should be checked and monitored. It should be between 2 to 8 degrees. We should not use frozen media during for embryo culture. So in conclusion, I would just say that if we're able to make small changes, we're able to have big gains, and at the end of the day, we're able to optimize embryo culture, which at the end of the day, we increase, it will make us to have increased success rates. Thank you very much. This is the references. Sorry. I'm still sharing. Why is going off? So this is this is the end of the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Femi Olaifa, who, of course, I have no doubt that he will deliver, and I think he has done it as expected. Thank you so much for that clear, lucid presentation, well delivered, at least from my own end, even though people may have different mixed opinions. But I think it was well delivered. Thank you so much, as we give him digital claps, which are already coming up already. So thank you so much. I think it's time now for us to entertain questions and comments. I've seen one already. Okay, there are a lot of commendations here, as usual, and as expected. I think we have one question here. We have somebody asking, how do you achieve 5% oxygen for optimum embryo culture since the atmospheric pressure is at 20%, like you mentioned?
Okay, yes. Thank you, sir. I think I've already tried to answer that question during the presentation. And what to do is, because the big the big box incubator that we use right now we cannot control the oxygen tension through that. So we have to make sure that we use the tri-gas incubator or flatbed incubator. I think the picture I showed one of the picture during the presentation. So you have to get nitrogen gas. So the nitrogen gas is able to mix up with the oxygen. Then at the end of the day, we are able to achieve 5% CO2. So we cannot achieve it with the big box incubator. We have to get the flatbed incubator or the tri-gas, bent top tri-gas incubator. I hope I've been able to answer the question.
Okay, in other words, if I'm to ask, so if we are to have the normal box incubators, that means we're at the mercy of 20% oxygen.
Yes, that's the point of the updates that we're making today.
All right, okay. Thank you so much. I think that's the only question that is here. I've not seen any other question again, even at the Q&A session. Let me check. Q&A. No question here too. That means it was well understood.
Sorry, Dr. John, also raised up.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Somebody's hand is raised up. Mr. Tosin Ogunyemi, I think he wants to talk. Allow him to speak.
I didn't see that. Okay, fine. Okay. If you have, let the person speak. Okay, yes. Ogunyemi Tosin. Yes, I can see him. You want to speak?
Dr. John, how are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, very fine. Well done. Thank you so much.
Mr. Femi Olaifa, my other. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Yeah, my question to you, sir, is you've given us a very good lecture. Although I know that it might not be as relevant. This question might not be as relevant to you because you are no longer here. But in Nigeria, how do we achieve this tri-gas situation? Because we have seen from research that this tri-gas works better and it gives higher gases formation rates. But our challenge here majorly is how to combine these gases and how to get that commercial value. So do you have a suggestion of how we are able to achieve this tri-gas combination that has been proven to reduce toxicity and improve gases formation rate? And also, going by the cost of the bench top incubators that are available for us here, what do you suggest? Do we combine tri-gas with box incubator, which is readily available, or we all now have to save up to buy your bench top incubators as advised? Also, in terms of large batches, how do we combine
in terms of what?
Large batches? For instance, things that run 700 collections a day, twice a week or 3 times a week, and they benefit from your tri-gas situation as described. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, yes, thank you, Tosin, for your question. I think what we need to do, because right now in Europe and other places, they no longer use the big box incubator for embryo culture. So what they use it for, probably they use it as backup, and they also use it for dish preparation. That's all. So most of the culture is done with time-lapse incubation or incubator, and also the tri-gas. That's what they do now for embryo culture. So the big box incubator is no longer being used for embryo culture. That being said, if you want to do batching, for example, before you do the batching, you must have looked at what's the capacity or the present capacity of the laboratory can take. For example, if for example, people that do like maybe 500 cases per year, so you have to get as much tabletop incubators. You do the analysis and get as much as that you will need for your easy or operations, for everything to go well. And, so you need to look at the number that you need to have, first of all. And I think what should happen is that there should be plan to get, for Nigeria, there should be plan to get, funds for some of these equipments so that, we'll be able to meet up with what is going on internationally. That is my own suggestion. So it could be planned. It's not something that, we are going to be in a hurry about. And but the good thing also is that we are achieving results with the big incubators, which is really very surprising. But the truth is that if we really want to optimize culture, embryo culture, and we want to increase, for example, if your lab is doing 50%, there's nothing bad in the lab being able to do 70% success rate at the end of the day. If you are able to add these tri-gas incubators and also the time-lapse incubators. I hope I've been able to answer your question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. I think there are more questions
coming up here too.
Yes, there are questions coming in now. We have one asking, does the nitrogen gas used to reduce the oxygen tension in trial gas have any detrimental effects on the embryo quality? Okay, maybe I should just read out the questions and you take them sequentially. So that's one. Let me.
Let's take it one by one. It will be easier for you.
You want to take it one by one? Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, so does the nitrogen gas used to reduce the oxygen tension in tri gas have any detrimental effect on embryo quality?
No, I don't think so. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have any detrimental effect. But the most important thing is that you make sure that there is inline filter in those gases. So all the VOCs probably present, in the cylinder is removed. Then the nitrogen is set at about 90% or 89%. That will help us to achieve the 5% oxygen tension for optimal embryo culture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The second question, the next question says, you made mention of the volume of culture medium affecting embryo quality. What do you think should be the ideal culture droplets for embryo culture?
Yeah, for droplet culture, what we know as standard is about 60 microliter, 60 microliter of medium, but you must also cover it in, there must be an oil overlay, I think about 60 microliter of media. Should be okay, yeah.
Okay. Then the next question says, meaning okay, let me say, meaning is it better to have several small incubators than few big incubators?
I think we need to define that. What if that person is saying bench top tri-gas incubators.
Yes, I think that's what the person means.
Yes,
I think so.
Yeah. You need to, like I said before, you need to look at the amount of work you do, and you also need to do the analysis of the amount of incubators that will be enough for your operation. So yes, I think we are not saying that we should not have the big incubators. The big incubators can be there for backup and also can be used for culture media preps, culture media preps for use in embryo culture. So yeah, you can have as much as will be enough for your operations. Thank you.
All right. The next question says, thank you for the lecture, sir. Concerning embryo culture dish preparation, is it best to prepare the culture dish when the laminar flow hood is turned on or off, sir?
No, I think you should not off your laminar flow hood. Everything you're doing should be, the flow hood should be working. Anytime you're doing this preparation, anything you're doing, the flow hood should be working. You should not be off because the flow hood is trying to help you to clean the hair around where you're working. So it's going to reduce contamination and all that. Thank you.
Does the choice between single and sequential media affect embryos that will reach blastocyst stage?
Yes, I think during the presentation I said it that Cochrane review says that you know, the studies that are available is saying that none is superior over the other. So I think it's based on experience and convenience, whatever the ones that is convenient for you. You know, I think the two of them will not. It doesn't have any advantage over one. Does not have any advantage over the other. So you can use any one, and then you will have a lot of increase in blastocyst formation. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Is the sterilization method for the benchtop incubator any different from the big box incubator?
Yes, yeah, there are differences. It's just like the big incubator. You know, there are programs inside the incubator for the sterilization. There are programs inside, but what is usually done for the flatbed incubator is that they are cleaned with disinfectant that is non-toxic to embryos. Then you also wipe down with water, with clean water. Then you set the program for sterilization. Then it's going to sterilize, but it takes a shorter time, you know, because that one is direct eating. You know, for some of the sterilization that we have for the big incubator, you know, for some of them it takes like 24 hours, you know, with humidity in it. But these ones is dry eating. So the system just eats up to about 90 degrees for about maybe 2 hours or so. Then it calms down, then it can be used. So the sterilization is shorter. Thank you.
Okay, we have more questions on the Q&A section. We have one asking us, based on your experience in the IVF lab, what recent innovations have you employed that has improved embryo survival rates in IVF? Because I know that one major issue we faced in the lab is poor fertilization rates and low blastocyst turnout. I also know several laboratories came up with their own SOPs.
Okay, yeah, if I want to answer that question, every laboratory should have their SOP. There should be, for every process in the laboratory, there should be an SOP. And so part of the things that have been done is to the game changer is the time-lapse incubator. That's the game changer, you know, where you are able to culture the embryos unperturbed for 5 to 6 days. You don't need to bring the embryos out, you know, and you just check your system and you're able to see all the videos and the developmental milestones of the embryos. I think the game changer is the time-lapse incubator, and then it's also able to grade the embryos for you. You don't even need to do any grading yourself. Then at the end of the day, you're able to select the best embryos for transfer. I don't know if I've been able to answer that question.
Well, I think so. I should think so. All right, we have another question. How does the difference in media preparation setup affect embryo culture system pH? Is there a difference in pH when using micro droplets versus well culture / large volume?
From experience, I've used both, depending on what your SOP says, maybe in your laboratory. Some laboratory decide to use a droplet culture for their embryo culture, while some people decide to use a large volume. So from experience, if everything is right with the pH setup in the incubators, the pH is not going to be affected. And from experience, both methods or culture systems are very effective. And we also experienced high positive pregnancy rates, when we use large culture media for culture, yeah? Large volume, when we use large volume of media for culture, yeah, we still registered good pregnancy rates. So there's, although physiologically, yeah, the micro droplets is okay for culture because that is what happens. That is what happens in the uterus. The volume of fluid present in the uterus is very minimal. So we can say physiologically, the micro droplet culture, is recommended. But I think both of them have very good success rates. Thank you.
I think we have one more, I believe should be the last question here.
Mm.
So considering the fact that ammonia is being released in the culture dish, even when I'm using single step media, can I still change my single step in a day to a new single step?
From what we know, the new media that are coming up now contains, a dipeptide that is able to reduce the ammonia buildup. So right now, you don't need to worry about the ammonia buildup, but standard procedure is to change your dishes and your media on day 3 of culture. So it is advisable that you should continue with that, but only if you are using time-lapse incubator that you may not need to change at all. So if you are using time-lapse, you just culture in a droplet, so you don't need to bother. But if you are still using, if you are not using time-lapse, it's better standard to change on day 3 of culture. Even if you are using a single step or you are using sequential, it's advisable to change on day 3. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I think we've come to the end of the questions. I will hand over to my co-moderator, Mrs. Inikbi, to take closing remark and final comments. And we'll take it off from there. Thank you so much. Mr. Olaifa, thank you so much. We appreciate that.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
And to the people that asked questions and commented, you made the presentation lively. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. So, Mrs. Inikbi, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sincere appreciation to Mr. Adefemi Olaifa for your expert perspective on improving IVF outcome. Thank you, sir. And I also like to appreciate everyone who took the time to attend our bi-monthly webinar series. Please kindly note that this year, our conference is the second Congress of African Federation of Fertility Society, AFFS, and the 16th Association for Reproductive Health, AFRH. That's the annual international conference, and it's tagged AFFS Abuja 2026. The conference is scheduled to take place on the 24th to 26th of September 2026, and the theme for this year is Fertility Frontiers, talking about global innovations and advances in human reproduction. The venue is Abuja Continental Hotel, FCT Abuja, Nigeria. Participants are encouraged to register via the conference website, www.affsconference2026.org. And for the conference fee, We have different packages for foreign delegates, AFRH members, and of course, non-members. See the flyers for more details. You can also use the code EARLYBIRD for discount during registration. Now, this offer ends on the 31st of May, 2026. Additionally, we encourage everyone to download the AFRH Nigeria app. There's no need to visit the app store. All you have to do is install through the link that will be set out. And of course, you can see it on our flyers. You can visit app.afrhnigeria.org/install. Please note that this very presentation that just took place is available. It was recorded and is available for playback on our AFRH website. And kindly follow AFRH on all our social media handles as displayed on the screen for updates and announcements. We also look forward to you having you to join us again for the next webinar scheduled for the 25th of March 2026. Till then, I remain Inikpe Ujasabo. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Chan.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Inikpe, for that comments. I really appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Once again, this is AFRH. We're all welcome to be part of this family. And I still join my voice to that of Mrs. Inikpe to encourage us to register for the conference and follow us on all social media handles so as to be able to keep up to date with all our activities. So thank you very much, everyone, all the presenter and all attendees, questions, answers, comments, and all that. Thank you so much and have a very great evening ahead of you.